Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.
Legacy Maker Sports Network, of course, with me, Lamonte Thomas. And this was the first home game for the Virginia Cavaliers. They come in and they dominate 52-17 over the William and Mary Tribe. Lamont, what were your thoughts on today's game?
Oh, man, UVA got it done on all sides of the ball, offense, defense, special teams. Coach Mendenhall has been talking about the maturity of this group, and I think we saw it here tonight as they just dominated and they improved in every aspect of the game.
Yeah, then the running game, when you outrun a team 216-63, you just know you're dominant on the running front, and they got it from all of their running backs today. And at the end, Mike Hollins comes in, and you get to see a little bit of UVA's future from that freshman. It was just a good overall game, and then we saw Joe Reed do Joe Reed things. And there we talked to Coach Mendenhall during the ACC Media Day, and we asked him, we said, hey, Coach, can Joe Reed be that Zacchaeus type of replacement or be that step up? And you'll get to see right after this what he had to say as well. But we saw that Joe Reed can do that. He can be that special guy for this team.
He was electrifying. I mean, first time in since 1989 that UVA does not punt in a game.
1989. It's a long time. I was 5. Just throwing it out there.
The offense was absolutely incredible. I mean, they had a couple mishaps here and there, but as Coach Mendenhall said, now is the time to do it before they get into the rest of ACC play.
Now, of course, next week, this team will take on the Florida State Seminoles. Florida State may have not be the powerhouse that people know them to be, the team that won a national championship a few years ago with Jameis Winston, but you cannot count this team out. ACC play, you started off with a really tough team here. What are your thoughts early about this Florida State game coming up?
It's going to be intense, no doubt about it. ACC matchup, it's a showdown. Both defenses are going to have something to prove, and yeah, it's going to be a fight to the finish. I mean, Bryce Perkins, he still has a little bit to prove himself. I mean, he's supposed to be the man. We've been talking about him taking over a game with his arm. That may be put to the test next week.
Definitely something he's going to have to do. He had 2 interceptions today, but like Lamont said, Coach said, it's okay. It's okay.
Now's the time.
Make the mistakes, those small mistakes now, get them out of your system. Big game next week. Legacy Maker Sports Network will be here. Myself and Russ Telefero will be here. But now we take you to our highlights and our post game with Coach Mendenhall and a little bit of Joe Reed. I'm Darrell Owens.
Lamont Thomas.
Legacy Maker Sports Network.
Yeah, I was glad to have another victory. Certainly to start our home slate with the win is very positive. It was noticeable the support we had today. I liked the energy and the attendance I saw at Scott Stadium. Really noticed the student section, and man, I would love to continue to capitalize on that and play in a manner where our fans keep coming and are engaged at the level they were, especially the first half. I was pleased with the scoring in multiple phases. It was good to get our kickoff return game. That was an emphasis this week after what we saw in week 1, so it was good to see our kick return game reemerge with Joe Reed. Really fun to see Nick Grant score defensively. And then I thought there was relative balance offensively when we were moving the ball and moving it effectively. Uncharacteristically, Bryce had a couple of turnovers. And if there is a time to have those, now is that time prior to us getting into the rest of ACC play. Our defense adjusted and played really well in relation to a very challenging scheme and had to work extra to be prepared. And then we saw and had a chance to evaluate quite a few of our depth players, which to do well in our league from beginning to end, they're going to need to have a role. So I liked what I saw from Brennan Armstrong at quarterback. I liked what I saw from Mike Hollins at running back. I didn't see a defensive standout to just say, man, I really liked that player. I'll have to look more specifically at the film. But overall, a good win and a great personnel assessment tool in going forward.
Start with Jeff. In your coaching career, have you had a return man who's been as big a threat as Joe Reed is?
I haven't. Joe is the best kick returner that I've had a chance to coach, and man, he's got amazing speed and he just has a knack and a great vision, and is very dynamic. I was surprised that the ball was kicked to him. We were hopeful that it would be, and we thought William & Mary was very aggressive on their kick return, and we were impressed with them, on their kick coverage from week 1, and thought they had strong culture and were really aggressive. So our intent was then to run around them and come to the field, which it was executed well and blocked well. Also, not just Joe Reed, but I really like Billy Kemp at punt returner. And again, he wasn't available week 1, but he did some nice things in the punt return game too.
Mike and Doug, you've talked before about benchmarks for this program or things you want to consistently do. I'm curious, does winning convincingly in these games where you are a big favorite, is that a step in a program? Sure,
because it's a unique challenge in and of itself. Going on the road to Pitt and all the focus we put in that the entire off season, and to have that success, and then to turn around and play a team that, again, I think is well coached and a good football team. But just on paper, we should win the game, and we should be favored to win the game. And then to play and win convincingly, yeah, it is a challenge and it is a test and reflects maturity and again, experience. And so I take that as a step in the right direction of just being able to adjust from week to week on the different challenges that come our way, and then to do it on a short week. Yeah, it was tough. But I was happy overall with the way that we performed.
Could you talk a little bit about your depth at running back? And I guess, Wayne, is that going to be an extended absence? Or?
So no, Wayne was, and I couldn't even tell you exactly what the nature of the injury. He'll be back for Florida State. Took longer. We were hopeful to have him back this game. It just took longer than anticipated. It turns out to be a blessing, so we already knew about what he could do, and we're happy with what he was doing. But for PK to get the amount of work he got, to see Lamonte, but then to see Mike, that gives us that depth. Put it this way, that depth is what I would be hopeful to have at every position, where the next player and they're staged appropriately to where you kind of look forward to seeing the next player, and I would say the same at quarterback. Hope that answered the question.
Bronco, it seems like in a game like this with a young quarterback on the other side, you want your defense to assert itself pretty quickly, and it seemed like they did that and kind of got him thinking pretty quickly. Are you pretty pleased with how that went?
Yeah, the approach, he's a very good football player and very dynamic. I think they have 2 good players at quarterback. And I think their scheme, again, is very strong and is well thought out. What we believed in watching just the one game we had on tape is that if he was allowed to have a head start and get in the open field, that's going to be a challenge. And we saw that in scrambling early. We actually wanted to stop him before he ever got started. And so it increased our amount of pressure, and which seemed to be effective and get his eyes from going downfield to the rush. And for the most part, that's what we had hoped to do, and executed it pretty well with our starting group.
Coach, you mentioned a couple times that this may be the most mature team that you've ever seen. With the team scoring on all three phases of the game, how much did they live up to that tonight?
Yeah, I would say it's the most mature team I've had at Virginia. Not necessarily overall, but I've seen them growing in that regard, and I see it just by their daily work ethic, and it doesn't take much motivation to encourage them to prepare, and they understand the value of special teams and the leadership that they show, and they understand the areas they need to improve on. So they're receptive to the feedback that I give them, and then they go to work on that, and then they apply it. So this group, at least at my time at UVA, has now been the most mature group, which it should be with time, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing a very good job. And so I think we're seeing manifest just in the first two games.
Coach, you didn't have J-Mac for the second half last game. When did you know you were getting him back, and how nice was it to have him when you're trying to slow down an offense that I obviously don't have a lot of film on?
Yeah, we knew we were going to have J-Mac back on Wednesday, and so it wasn't the start of the week, but a huge boost when we knew we were getting him back, and it was on Wednesday. So that would be the equivalent of a Thursday in a normal week, which a lot of the work's already done, but because he's so experienced, and he was one of the players we had to have on the field athletically just to match their quarterback in case he started to scramble.
Mike and Jeff, we've talked a lot about not trying to replace Lamonte's production with one guy, but at the same time, Joe Reed has been very productive. What have you seen, and is he a guy that can maybe approach that kind of a role?
We hope he can approach it over time. We thought it would be too big of a task to ask right at the beginning. If there is an heir apparent, yeah, Joe is the most heir apparent-ish, but there's going to take a support cast with him, and maybe by the end or maybe by some point in the season, those numbers might look the same. But we have a pretty strong supporting cast now in addition, and you can see Chapman starting to emerge. Obviously, you've seen Hassis, Darrell Jana, and then Billy and Tavares now. So, and then that's before Dontavian Wicks, who will be emerging. So I like the depth we have at wideout. I like the depth we have at running back. I like the depth we have at quarterback. We're still working on the offensive front, and then defensively, I can't comment yet. I think we need more depth in our secondary from my first take tonight.
And if you don't mind sharing, it looked like you had a fairly long handshake with Coach London.
Yeah.
Would you share what
Sure. I'm just impressed with Mike London as a person. I always have been. We had a really nice conversation before the game, and his values and my values align very well. And I find a lot in common with him, and I respect the job he does, but I also I like who he is, and I like his values, and I would love to see him have success because of what he represents. And again, I don't know Mike well, but I know him well enough in the world of college football, to say, yeah, he's someone that I admire and respect.
Our last question from Jeff.
Chapman did not come here with a big body of work from Arizona State. Was it a leap of faith on the staff's part at all, or were you confident just because of what Bryce had said and Grizz?
Yeah, so the leap of faith was reduced to just a small step of faith. So my first graduate assistant, Danny Gonzalez, is the defensive coordinator at Arizona State, and he gave me a report of exactly what he thought Terrell Chapman was. Grizz, who I love and respect as our strength coach, told me the same thing. And then Bryce Perkins, our quarterback, who I love and respect. So there's three sources that basically said the same thing and thought that he would and could have a great career with us and needed an opportunity. And so with three people that I know and trust, that was an easy choice, and I think it's been great for both of us, both him and us.
Yes, I was surprised that they kicked.
Was there any hesitation?
At what point in the end zone do you just not try to take it out?
Usually about three yards.
Pretty close, wasn't it?
They asked me that.
How significant, you guys were huge favorites going into this one, and you just go out and take care of business. How challenging is that to just go out and take care of business in a game like that?
It's not challenging at all. That's why we practice all week, especially when we come in here in our home environment. We practice here in the spring, we practice here in the fall. So it's just a matter of showing up and executing like we know we can. Oh yeah, our receiver group. Rick, big arsenal this year. He can stretch the field, and he has great hands. And he's a smart receiver.
Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.